with franchises in general, you see the general comment, don't pay Jim his exorbitant fees or whatever, go start yourself. But I just think from the value offering alone in the leads that you're saying, you're actually silly to try and do it yourself. If you're doing it yourself from a cost perspective, what you've just said then outlined, it's a no-brainer.
It doesn't make sense. By the time you build a website, Facebook pages, start advertising, it physically doesn't make sense. Our franchisees spend, I think it's $750 on a royalty fee per month, which is the better part of $8,000 a year. Actually, $8,000 to have a Jim's plumbing license per year, plus $150 for marketing, which is a contribution to both your state-based marketing, and then $29 every job you get. You hit the ground running immediately. The money you lose trying to build your business in the first 12 to 24 months, it's not worth it. You're better off joining a brand like Jim's, which is just going to provide so much value from the get-go.
So thanks for joining us today, Chris, who is the Divisional Franchisor for Jim's Plumbing, the relaunched Jim's Plumbing. Now, Jim's Plumbing, people might sort of go, didn't hear too many good things about him. There was a whole bunch of media about it, and we've tried to do our best with Jim himself to address those concerns, which is on YouTube, Chris. But let's just talk about Jim's Plumbing from your perspective. Why did you want to get involved? Why did you want to take it on? And why did you want to relaunch it?
Well, with Jim's Plumbing, essentially, we currently own the roofing division, which does plumbing work, essentially roof plumbing already. So we're sort of embedded into the industry in some way. And we did find out that the previous franchisors were losing the license. And like a lot of other franchisors, we put a tender in to try and acquire the division and add it on. Now, by no means were we ready to do it, but no good opportunity comes at a perfect time. Ourselves, we've been part of the Jim's network for almost a year now with the roofing division. We managed to start that from 0 to almost 20 franchisees in the space of 10 months. So we're very proud of that. And I guess what we wanted to do was add this service on, not so much to the roofing division, but add it on where our roof plumbers and our general plumbers can work side by side as well, okay? Because some can't do that part of the job and some definitely can't do the other part of the job as well. And Jim and Rocky both liked that idea. They also liked the way we went about it. We're not plumbers. We're not roofers ourselves. We're franchise experts. We've got no invested interest in taking any of the work ourselves. Our job is to make sure that our franchisees are busy and they're supported and they've got enough work at all times. That is our only job at the end of the day. Obviously, there's a second part of that in making sure that our franchisees are compliant to the brand, making sure that everything is, all their I's are dotted and their T's are crossed. And that's almost a full-time job in itself. What we're noticing, the more you grow, the more franchisees you bring on board, the more you do need to focus on that as well, and the compliance, because that's how Jim's created such a large brand over the last 32 years. It's that customer service. It's going there with your uniform. It's making sure that your car's wrapped and cleaned and everything on time, reliable, work done to scratch. So those are the things that we really do focus on.
What's the difference this time around with what you're doing compared to what was done previously? I know the differences myself, but I want it from your perspective because you're running the division now. What are the differences from this time around with Jim's Plumbing to what was done previously?
So this time around, it is a franchise model. So we have dedicated, qualified, registered plumbers that run their own business within the Jim's brand, just like every other Jim's franchisee. I think there's 5,600 of them running around at the moment, run their own business. So they have employees under them. The previous model, as much as it was successful, basically had one company that ran hundreds of plumbers underneath it as well. Now that's great in one way, but the way we're going to run it is people will be running their own territories, their own businesses, their own staff, running their own crews. Essentially, we've already found that the quality of work is much better because the care factor is more. The franchisee's own business, that's up for grabs as well. Franchisees can lose their licenses if they don't do the right thing, just like the previous franchisor lost their entire license. So that is the main difference. It will be run as a conventional division, a franchise model. We will help our franchisees with all their marketing. We just need plumbers to be plumbers, essentially. And we will help them with their HR. So if they need subbies, if they need employees, we will do it for them. Okay, we just need them to get out to the work because there's so much of it, and really just focus on that. Attending to the
and a good difference that people might know if they've used it and they're watching this was the previous model wasn't under the Jim's call center. Jim's call center is really, really important, and also the call out fee, because with Jim's, every single Jim's division is a free quote, and that one was not. So customers who have used Jim's before would then use Jim's Plumbing and we're getting stung with a credit card charge, and It just really left the bad taste in their mouth. So just to be clear, it's obviously every call goes via the same 131-546 number, and also it's a free quote for the customer.
Free. It is absolutely free. Okay. During work hours, okay, during the 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., it is completely free. Okay. After hours, we really leave it up to our franchisees' discretion on potentially what they're doing and with the weather and everything else that's happening. But that's where it stops with us. During work hours, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., it is completely free to receive a quote from Jim's Plumbing Australia.
That's great. And that's very fair. We have some other divisions like mobile mechanics, for example, who outside of hours as well might charge things, but that's up to the franchisee. So it's great to hear that. That's a really good point of difference for us as well. And I think with gyms, just them having that backing, if something does go wrong, they've now got if there's an issue on the system we can look at, and Jimmy himself.
24-hour. Yep, it's a 24-hour. And what we like as well is, we've pretty much got a 24-hour call center now as well. Okay, I think it's 18, 19 hours with Perth time, but we have requested to go 24 hours because with plumbing for some reason only happens after hours. Plumbing issues only happen after hours. So we need the call center open 24/7. So, and that's something that Jim and Rocky have both looked at, and they're looking at extending it now. And then the volume of work that's coming in after that time, I think is definitely something that we're going to require. A lot of our plumbers are okay for it 24/7, 7 days a week. So they're ready to go.
You guys did a great favour to us. You helped out a current affair. So a current affair, we did the original story about Jim's Plumbing, which sort of shone a light on it. You came back in, helped out the customer. I think it was Vulcan come down from Sydney at the time, and yourself, and you went out there and you helped out a customer, which was a fantastic piece of PR.
We flew Vulcan down because from what we understood, we didn't know anything about this job. Well, we thought it was an advanced gas leak that couldn't be detected, and it was one of these jobs that someone with 10 years experience would only be able to, and special equipment. But then when we got out there, I could have fixed it myself, and it was really one of those jobs where I don't like to bag anyone, but it was just a shambles what happened. So we were out there for the better part of 3 hours. We could have done it in half an hour if we weren't filming.
Thanks for doing that. And people can check that out on the YouTube channel as well. I was going to say as well, maybe do you want to give if an independent plumber is already running his business, then what's the benefit of coming to join Jim's Plumbing? Because it's a question we get a lot. We have Jim's Electrical and a few other ones where they're qualified. You need qualified people to do it.
Yep.
So why should someone who's maybe being a subby or employee for someone or even running their own business, why should they come into Jim's Plumbing?
Well, we'll probably start with someone that's already running their own business. Then we'll talk about the subbies and so on. I guess someone that's running their own business, if you were to join Jim's Plumbing, you would essentially delete a lot of the back end work, which is your marketing, which is essentially your bookkeeping, because the Jimbo app does everything for you. Essentially, it synchronizes with Xero and MyOb and QuickBooks and everything like that as well. It sends all your invoices. It's all automated. And at the end of the day, more work. We spend a lot of money on marketing, a lot more than the average plumber out there. So brand recognition. These days, people want to be part of a large brand, and customers want a large brand, a trusted brand working on their pipe, especially on some of the larger jobs as well. So definitely the work, and there's a ton of it coming in most states, would be the main reason why people would be joining. Now, that doesn't mean we accept everyone. We've had a lot of people inquire from our predecessor's company, and we've said no to them. I won't mention their names or the company that it's from, because we don't want to be seen as essentially hiring the same people that caused the issues for the last few years. So, we're very picky on the plumbers that we do bring on board, even though we have a target of 200 plumbers within the next 24 months. We still have to bring on the right people, or else they will or else we're going to be in square one, and we want to prove that we're different from the company prior. So, it's a totally different model now.
I'm going to say now about what about a subby or an employee? So they might want to go out on their own, and they're sort of deciding, do I go this option or do I go and do it by myself?
And we've had people inquire about that and come on board already that are subbies or employees as such. And the biggest issue we find with them, and what their main concern is, how do I get started? Am I going to have enough work? That is the biggest issue. So it's very rare you can join a brand and hit the ground running with work. Yeah, we had one of our franchisees in Melbourne. I can't share my screen at the moment. It's got everyone's details on there. In his first 3 weeks, he's had 95 jobs, 95 leads, bigger part of. So it's probably the average franchisee wins anywhere between 70 to 80%. Let's call it 50. He's had 50 jobs in 2 weeks, which is an absolute record. That's just in Melbourne alone. Okay. And he's already talking about buying his second territory. And we said, mate, you haven't been here a month. Take it easy. Let's talk about it next year type of thing. He said, no. I'm ready. And then I want to bring on a mate who's going to manage that. So he's already looking at expanding his business. And this is the guy that was an employee for someone else. And his main concern is, am I going to have enough work? I don't know how to do bookkeeping. I don't know how to do marketing. And we do it all for him. So he just doesn't understand how easy this is. Should have brought him on for an interview today.
I was going to say, but from a lead gen point of view, because you would know it's very expensive to market or cost per click for plumbing and stuff. So very, really competitive and very expensive. But just as you said, 50 leads or 50 jobs in 2 weeks. Like if you were to generate that as an
95 leads.
90,
exactly. But
95.
I'm being very generous. Let's just say you've won half of them. That's still in 2 weeks' time, 45, 50 jobs. He's won a lot more than that, but it's and that's purely because of the brand. We haven't spent that much money. Like we've only been active for 6 weeks, and we've spent a lot of money in more than most businesses in advertising. But that's nothing compared to what we're going to be doing in the next couple of years or so. For us, what's really hard for us, we can go absolutely ham and start advertising for work, and we'll flood the call center. The problem is we don't have enough franchisees to do the work. So we actually need to recruit first, and this is what we tell all of our franchisees. Is it might be slow when you first join because we've got to bring you on and then we've got to start advertising essentially, especially in states with no franchisee. You can't advertise for work if you don't have someone to do it. It's misleading. So and that's where it can be quite challenging. But we've mapped out the formula now. Now, as soon as someone signs a franchise document and is 2 to 3, 4 weeks out from starting on territory, we hit that button. So essentially, we do miss out on some unserviced leads. But we usually like to hit the button anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks out of that franchisee starting. So when they start, at least they get a list of all the unserviced work. They will call those customers. They're free. Those leads are free. It's just welcome to Jim's. Here's 20 unserviced leads type thing, and hope that most of them are still active. But what we're finding with plumbers, with this plumbing industry, is that not many of them are active. If someone's got a plumbing issue, they need it done right then and there. So, we've learned some really key lessons compared to our roofing division. Roofing is a totally different ballgame. You can enter a lead in, and 3, 4, 5, 6 days later, it's still active because they can't find roofers. But with plumbing, because it's so urgent, the customer doesn't give a shit. They will find a plumber. So the lead has to be contacted within hours because in most cases, they're not active. They're done. They've found a plumber. So our franchisees are expected to call the customer immediately within 2 hours. That's the Jim's rule. We'd say half an hour now for the plumbing division. It has to be done if they want that active work. It's not so much that the franchisee needs to go out to that job right then and there. It's call the customer, introduce yourself, see what the issue is, break the ice, and put them on ice, and then call them back at the end of the day and book them in properly.
I was going to say, I just want to go back to a point you mentioned before about the leads, because it's very expensive to generate leads in plumbing if you're not with gyms. But to generate someone 95 leads, if someone was going to try and do that as an independent business, you'd be up for a fortune. And because you don't have the gym's name, you're probably not going to convert as many. I just want to go back to that point to people just to show in the leads alone the amount of value that you're creating from this minimal, when you compare its franchise fee, to generate just the leads by themselves. I'm not talking about the brand and the support and all the other stuff. It's such a no-brainer of a deal for anyone, even as an independent. I just don't see how you can compete with that as an offering for what they would pay in a monthly fee to you. And we're just got to make it clear as well, it's no percentage of revenue. It's a fixed fee system. So in plumbing, that's obviously very, very lucrative division. So fixed fee model is something to be reaping.
The leads that we charge, the lead fee is $29 after their compliance discount, which is absolutely nothing, right?
Very cheap.
And I just done some numbers. So our franchisee with 95 leads would have $29 times 95 is $2,755. To get 95 leads on your own, you're going to spend probably 5 times that amount to get that. Now, if the average job in plumbing is anywhere between let's call it $2,000 to $1,000 in between there. I don't know many plumbers that get out of bed for less than $200 a job these days. They're making, anywhere from $50,000 to $60,000 just from those 95, if they got all 95 jobs. So you're spending less than, let's call it less, I think we worked it out to less than 2% of your overall revenue for leads that come through the call center. So and that's just brand recognition. It's an amazing brand.
Amazing deal. I was going to say as well, someone likes the sounds of this and they want to go, yep, want to join Jim's Plumbing. Besides the leads, obviously, what do they get else for their money when they join Jim's Plumbing?
Branding. There is HR support, there is marketing support, and there is bookkeeping support as well. Those are the three things that really hold back a lot of business owners, not just plumbers, business owners in general, and they get a whole almost 24-hour call center that takes all their calls for them. They can also turn themselves off, like our 95 lead franchisee has already turned himself off work. You probably think that's
You hope so.
But he just physically can't keep up with the amount of work. And what we say to our franchisees, if you're too busy, you do need to turn yourself off because you will get complaints from our customers, and that's what we don't want. So you're better off just turning yourself off when you're ready to start, maybe when you're a few days or a week out from being able to start receiving more work.
Oh, look, it's such a great deal. And I think, there's a general, always with franchises in general, you see the general comment, don't pay Jim his exorbitant fees or whatever, go start yourself. But I just think from the value offering alone in the leads that you're saying, you're actually silly to try and do it yourself. If you're doing it yourself from a cost perspective, what you've just said then outlined, it's a no-brainer.
It doesn't make sense. By the time you build a website, Facebook pages, start advertising, it physically doesn't make sense. Our franchisees spend, I think it's $750 on a royalty fee per month, which is the better part of $8,000 a year. Actually, $8,000 to have a Jim's Plumbing license per year, plus $150 for marketing, which is a contribution to both your state-based marketing, and then $29 every job you get. You hit the ground running immediately. The money you lose trying to build your business in the first 12 to 24 months, it's not worth it. You're better off joining a brand like Jim's, which is just going to provide so much value from the get-go, not taking a what if and trying to build a brand from scratch. Everyone's, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of plumbers out there. There's no disrespect to them, but, there is a lot of them. So, and a lot of them spend a lot of money, advertising. So you're going to have to compete with that. So, and it's just getting worse and worse. Google tripled their prices recently per click. Some states, it's almost not even worth advertising on Google. Like our New South Wales, where we've just had a marketing meeting recently, it's almost not worth advertising on Google now. It's the amount of competition that's there. We will, because we're a large brand, but we're just like, how is the individual doing this? Impossible. Sometimes like $60 a click.
Well, they don't do that. They have to then use high pages and your lead aggregating sites, and that's generally, you're competing against 5 people, and the person just wants the cheapest price and not necessarily the best person.
But even high pages take a percentage of the job. And we're only charging $29 for the job. One of our franchisees in roofing, I'll bring it back to roofing, won a job that's worth $110,000 in Queensland. He paid $37 for that lead.
Amazing.
$110,000 gross. It was a commercial factory. It was a big job, months worth of work, cost him $37.
Well, hopefully you're getting a Christmas card and some beers from him this Christmas for that one. Hopefully you get that. I was going to say as well, though, something to point out, which you mentioned before, that the guy wanted to do an extra territory and expand. So I think you want to outline for people the really unique thing in Jim's is that you can expand your business and there's no extra costs or anything like that really, is there, from that perspective?
Not necessarily, no, because we basically, our territory fees are free. For the first 12 months, we don't charge a territory fee. And essentially it's almost a $20,000 discount. So yeah, if a franchisee wants to add another territory onto their current territory, let's just use Melbourne as an example. Let's just use Mooroolbark, where Jim's head office is. And let's say a franchisee owns the Mooroolbark territory and wants to add on the Croydon territory as well. They can simply add that on there is another monthly fee because it's a separate, it is a separate franchise that essentially they're running 2 different businesses. We don't recommend it for people that are one-man shows, okay? Especially if they're wanting to take a territory on the other side of town. We do recommend bringing a business partner on board, or at least an employee to manage that part of their business, or else it's just too undoable. But if a franchisee wants to add Croydon and Mooroolbark, which is, 5-minute drive, that's a totally different story. Then they can sort of run it themselves. But we do need to see business plans for everyone that wants to expand, how they're going to keep up with the work and the level of work, what's their HR plan, how many staff, how many subbies, what are you going to be running, what type of vans are you going to be using, everything. We need to know, because if we're going to invest more time and money in them as well, because we do, the advertising and everything else, then we need to make sure that they can keep up with the amount of work that's coming in as well, and they can facilitate and still provide that high quality customer service to our customers, or else we're going backwards.
I think the beauty of using you guys, Chris, is obviously if they want to do the sole trader and make good money and they just do their own thing, they can. But if they do have that bigger business, expansion ideas and stuff like that, you guys can guide them through the process and make it a hell of a lot easier than what it could be done if they'll by themselves.
This brand is scalable as well. So because of the amount of work that's coming in, it's almost guaranteed work, right? So that's really the only thing that holds business back is the amount of work that comes in. So if we can make that not a problem anymore, then why can't you scale a business if you've got the work level there? Because that's the only reason you don't bring staff on is how am I going to make sure they're busy? How am I going to pay for them? But if you've got the work coming in and the more staff you bring on, the more work you can physically do, then you've solved it. You've solved a lot of problems there.
Now, if someone wants to learn more about Jim's Plumbing, Chris, what do they need to do?
They can call the 131546 number, or they can call me personally on 0439 040 593.
Awesome, Chris. Well, thank you for your time. I think it's a no-brainer if you're a plumber. I know I work for Jim's and you obviously owe Jim's Plumbing, but it is a no-brainer even when you just outline the lead cost. And I'd implore anyone to call you guys and speak to you guys and obviously other franchisees as well, because that's an amazing amount of work for a really, really competitive industry. And it's just fantastic to see how well those franchisees are doing from the get-go. It's only going to get better.
Thanks, Joel. Much appreciated.
Thanks, Chris. Thank you for listening to the episode of the Gyms podcast. If you want to learn more about the Gyms Group, head to gyms.net or call us on 131 546 Australia or 0800 454 654 New Zealand. And if you did like the episode as well, please make sure you leave a review or a comment or a thumbs up or a comment on the video as well. We appreciate your support. And until next episode, we hope you have a great week.